Hello, welcome to another SonicLAB special. We've got Tom here from Universal Audio, and today's the day where you announce an upgrade to the Universal Audio platform. So new plugins?
Yep, version 9.4 and one of probably the most anticipated of all time, I would think.
Okay,
so
that's a big claim. Let's see what have you got, Tom?
It's a real big claim, but it is a big plugin, let's say. So I know people have been waiting for this one. We have the Empirical Labs Distressor.
Right, okay.
So a game changer plugin, a game changer piece of hardware, one of the best selling, if not the best selling pieces of hardware in terms of compressors of all time, immaculately modelled by Dave Berners and the guys at UAD. It took a long time to do this and get full approval from Dave Durr as the sort of definitive model of the Distressor.
I mean, for those who perhaps are not familiar with the Distressor, it kind of came up really through sort of big US productions. You know, it's a sort of big studio tool, drum compression and almost like effects compression, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's got the famous nuke mode, which was a great thing to put on room mics to sort of explode the energy in a drum recording. So you see it in a lot of rock records, but also for me at least, a lot of the trick with the Distressor is the low ratios, so the 2, 3, 4 to 1, where you can track vocals. So you'd get a rap vocal or a screamy sort of rock vocal, and you can pull sort of 15 dB of gain reduction, and it doesn't sound
bad. Yeah, because it not only does it affect stuff, it's very transparent, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a sort of thickness and a harmonic excitement that's happening to it, but the actual gain reduction, you can do a lot with it, and you don't necessarily hear it as being kind of like too much. I would always say that learning the Distressor was almost like cracking a safe, and the knobs are even like cracking a safe.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? And then you can learn how to get so many different flavors of compression with it, and because of it's got a really fast attack time, and it's a FET-based compressor, like a bit like an 1176, but obviously a more modern implementation of that type of idea.
Have you got anything that we can listen to just to give us an idea of what it can do?
So we've got this is a drum parallel here, so we'll just have a listen. That's the naked drums, effectively. And you can hear there's like a crunchiness to this. It's bringing up the room.
I mean, it's really extreme difference, but it's not a really extreme sound.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it's obviously a little louder, but pushing the Distressor into what they call the red line mode with the THD light flashing, this is actually saturating and rounding out all the transients, so it's doing like a wave shaping. And then we're just using a tiny bit of compression, very slow attack, just to like bring up the room, let it breathe through. You've got some pretty cool features on the Distressor, so you can tap through the various ratios, so you can even do the 1-to-1 ratio where it's not actually compressing, it's just a saturator.
Right.
Yeah, so you can use it as an overdrive effectively, or a transient rounder. You have the bypass button as you'd expect. 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, these all have slightly different shapes than you get at, say, 10-to-1 or 20-to-1. So each is optimized for a job. I think that's why it became a classic, because you could do vocals or bass or electric guitar with the low ratios. Get to 6, rap vocals really solid there. 10-to-1, there's an opto mode, which you actually engage by putting the attack on 10 and the release on 0, which is effectively what I'm using it as now, very much that kind of mode, which gives it an emulation of like an old classic tube compressor. And then you get into 20-to-1 and nuke, where you can really just completely hammer through the room sound.
It's always tempting to go to 11, isn't it, with an effect like this? Definitely.
Totally, but you know, in context, if this is actually on a parallel channel, so with the drums uncompressed, yeah, you can blend it in. But one thing we've added with the plugin is we've actually got a dry and compressed.
So you've got parallel path.
Built-in blend, yeah, exactly. So that's a new addition over the hardware. You'll also see there's this little headroom sort of thumb screw on the left-hand side, and this allows you to gain stage the operating levels within the compressor, so you can match whether you've got like a loud or a very quiet recording in digital terms. So you can effectively slide the analog headroom around to get the gain staging and the color the way you want it, depending on, you know, whether you record really quietly or you record really loud, for example.
So you've also, I noticed you've gone for the split rack kind of, because it's a 1U rack, isn't it, usually? So you've just sort of fold it over, right?
Fold it over, and it's better for screen real estate, but it's still very true to the original Distressor.
So, I mean, you say, you know, it's taken the guys quite a long time to kind of get to their happy place with where they are with this. I mean, how is it for DSP? I imagine it's fairly chunky just because it's
fairly juicy, yeah, but you do still run a good few per chip.
Right,
so, and the thing with the Distressor, it's an unbelievable tracking tool. So if you run it in an Apollo and you record vocals through this, you've already committed this completely controlled waveform, and your vocals will just be a lot easier to mix. It's a weapon. in that regard. It's the way I describe. They really are like. It's such a good design. It works so well.
Right.
You know, there's a couple of nice features which again perfectly emulated in the plugin. So you have in the detector tab here with the sort of toggle switch. You've got lots of combinations. This is part of their sort of flexibility. You can roll the low frequencies out of the sidechain, so it's not going to react too much to bass. So you get a bigger, thicker sound. Or you can even push the mid-range, and it will actually work like a de-esser. You can sort of nibble away at the edgy parts, like a really hard electric guitar that's sort of spiky at 3-4K. You can just tap away at that. Or you can have both on, for example. There's a couple of tricks with that. And then you've also got audio path distortion mode, so you can add like second or even order distortion or odd order.
Right, lots of stuff going on there.
Yeah, totally. And it's for me, it's got this sound that's like, well, it's exactly like the Distressor. It has this sort of air that happens around the sound. I used to call them the oosh box because they make everything go oosh like on the back of the sound. And you can hear that on this drum loop here. That's no Distressor. It's like oosh.
Yeah, right. It sort of opens up the bottom end somehow.
Yeah, and openness at low frequencies, that's quite hard to achieve, especially modelling, and we've obviously done that with the fast attack time and all of that tonal stuff.
So that's available with the current plug. Is it what's the price for the plugin?
It's $299 US.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Worth every penny.
Well, yeah, I can't wait to try that out. So there are presumably some other plugins in this bundle?
There are. So then over here on the bass track, we've got the Gallien-Krueger, one of the most famous bass amplifiers, the 800RB. And you can have a quick look here. It's actually, the thing with this amp, it was like an 80s classic that was used by like Duff McKagan out of Guns N' Roses, people like that. And what's really interesting is actually it's effectively two power amps in one for the bass part of the sound and one for the high frequency part of the sound. So there's a crossover, two actual power amplifiers, and they would drive like a two-way loudspeaker.
Right.
So this is fully modeled, so you can actually choose microphone chains for each of the top and bottom parts of the bandwidth effectively, and get this kind of really controlled, bright, high-frequency sound with like a really fat, round, low-frequency sound. So you can hear it on this bass here. That's off. And it'll get that pick click, you know, that very like 80s
but also
punk rock.
Massive bottom end.
Exactly.
I mean, we've got the bass rolled off in these speakers, and they're still like. I'm
sure that's enormous. Yeah, it's probably enormous, but you know, we also have one of the things that's also thickening up the low end here is this tri-stereo chorus, the Dytronics chorus, which is it's an analog bucket brigade chorus, but there are three choruses layered up together, and you have control over the feedback of all the delays of these, so you can actually effectively have like triple choruses laying on top of each other, so it gets really, really thick. So if I show you this on the bass, it's got this super wide, really lush tone.
Cutting engineer's dream, eh?
I'm sure they'll love the anti-phase, but you know, it's
sounds
for widening guitar sounds. It was the classic Steve Lukather Toto guitar sound box. It was, you know, the 80s chorus really.
Nice. You've even got the scratches on the faceplate as well.
Sounds better with a scratch.
Of course it does.
So that's three sort of mixed plugins, and obviously you can use the Gallien-Krueger in the Apollo for recording through and actually record bass through the amp in real time. And then we have the fourth plugin, which is in conjunction with the Townsend Sphere microphone.
Oh yes, so we've had a look at that. So that's
awesome. Yeah, the modelling mic. So you've got the dual capsules that emulate pickup patterns.
I think I looked at the Ocean Way mic collection one some time ago. I think it was that, and they did sound really good. It's always C12 though. That's you ask the question, which mics sound best? But obviously we've got a lot of stuff going on here. So how many mic models have we got?
So 47. You've got a couple of C12s. So very prized possessions. It's all Alan Side's personal mic collection, and there's some pretty good anecdotes about this where he apparently had bought and sold 400 U47s, but there are only 5,000 made. So he'd had his hands on a pretty solid percentage of all of them and found the great ones, and that's what we're modelling.
Nice.
So what you're getting here is actually some of the key
creme de la creme.
The creme de la creme. So then you get into things like the OW49, the 269. There's a bunch of classic sort of modern microphones like this 800, which is like the kind of rap R&B choice really. That's a cheap microphone.
But this will work with the technology inside the Townsend mic as well, so you can apply these models to
the microphone, and run it in console as I'm doing here, and effectively record through Ocean Way's prized mic collection.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty big deal. And you can obviously change things like the pickup pattern. You've got a filter for low end. You can modify the off-axis response.
Yeah.
And there's also the useful proximity control, which is great because what happens today in modern production is you track vocals one day and then you're back 3 weeks later to punch in a line or change a lyric or, whatever.
You can adjust that, and voiceover stuff as well, matching.
Oh, totally, matching tone, yeah. So you can, there might be a 2 or 3 inch difference on the day and you just push them.
And that because the Townsend mic has a stereo signal, so you've got 2 capsules effectively, so you could measure the distance between them, and it's all very clever.
But yeah, lots of pressure gradient maths and all this sort of pickup pattern.
Yeah, we'll keep it high level. I don't want to get too into the science because I don't understand it at all.
So yeah, there's a whole collection of rare microphones, all the way down to some small diaphragm types, and some vintage ribbons. It's a pretty lustworthy
Everybody always
collection
puts a 57 in, don't they? They always do. It's kind of like, do you think it's just so that people can go see how crappy you can make your expensive mic sound? If you really want to, you go the other way, right?
I always like to think you can do the job with a 57, but there are better choices, aren't there? But I think the nice thing is it's a reference most people know.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to compare the 57 to the 57, and then you kind of know how much better the tube mic sounds, for example. So that's it. Ocean Way mic collection, Distressor, Gallien-Krueger bass amplifier, and the tri-stereo chorus.
So all the pricing information will be on the UAD audio website. I think it's probably the best place to look.
Exactly, in all various currencies.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tom.
Cheers.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was it. That's the 9.4 update. See you next time. Thanks for watching.